After a few troubled years, Sessa is back. It's had a whack of investment from its Chinese dealer and is once again firing on all cylinders. This is the C42. It's a 2-bathroom, 2-cabin, wheelhouse sports cruiser running on IPS500. That's the twin D6 370s. So let's see what it brings to what is a very crowded corner of the market. One of the C42's trump cards is its enormous cockpit. And not only is it large, which does nibble into a bit of saloon space, but it's very well laid out too. Very sociable, and that is typified by the wet bar here. We've seen wet bars set on transoms before, but it makes a lot of sense on this boat because of the low-level seating, the fact that you're close to all of your guests, you can easily talk to them while you're out here on the grill. But then once you move into the cockpit, it just gets better, because you realise quite how much comfortable seating space you have on board to cater for all of your guests. You have this stunning table which folds out to a really big size, so you've got plenty of room to dine, and it's peppered with really nice detailing as well. Things like these lovely handholds here, cup holders, you've got a pull-out bimini over here, and there's more detailing to look at up on the bow, so let's go and check it out. Though the C42 doesn't have the biggest foredeck you'll ever see, Sessa's used the space cleverly. So you have neat details like the sun pads here, have adjustable backrests so you can sit up and read. You have repeater for the Fusion head unit up here, as well as extra speakers. And they've incorporated dedicated fender baskets here into the guardrails. All really useful stuff. So as I mentioned, there's a slight penalty for that huge cockpit, which is that the saloon isn't the largest you're going to see in this category. But if you're 4 of you, you're perfectly comfortable. There's enough seating for you. The galley can cater for 4, no problem. And the windows are pretty large as well, so there's enough light in here. Your TV is to port here, goes up and down as you can see, so it's not constantly in the way of that window. And then back here is where your galley is. Now, some people don't like the galley down layout, though you haven't got a huge amount of options on a boat of this size. And actually, I think the way this boat's configured, the person in the galley can so easily talk to the people up here on the dinette, it doesn't really make a difference. Though there are a lot of different levels to negotiate in this area, up to the helm, down to the cabin, the space beneath has been well used. So for example, under this hatch, there's a nice big dry storage area, useful on longer cruises, as is the fact that they've managed to fit a good size fridge and freezer here. Again, if you're on board for weeks at a time, that's going to be really useful. In terms of the physical cabin layout, the master is in the bow. It's a nice size double, and beneath it there's loads of storage space for bags and other bulky items, which is very useful. And then the guest cabin is a twin. Not a huge amount of headroom over the beds themselves, but plenty at the end of the bed to get changed. Sessa was a really early adopter of Volvo's IPS system. This boat uses IPS500, which is the D6 370s, and you can tell that they've used IPS a lot. It works brilliantly on this boat, very, very well matched. 35 knots we got at the top end today on a blowy old day. She's full of fuel, full of water, cruising stores on board. So that's pretty good performance, all season performance you'd imagine as well. In terms of steering, if you've driven an IPS boat before, it doesn't feel too dissimilar to other boats with this sort of system. You've got a pretty keen initial turn in, then it flattens off a bit, and the turning circle is reasonably wide, but for the average owner, it's going to be entertaining enough and quick-witted enough to steer around the worst of rough seas. One thing I have found out here today is that she responds quite well to trim tabs. You need at least half tab down most of the time, I'd say, certainly with the roof shut, just to give yourself a good enough view out. She does rise up quite a lot as she goes over the hump, so having some tab down helps out there. Of course, this roof peels right back, and there is a step below me so that you can stand and peer through the roof if you want to. Seating position is good, actually, aside from needing some tab. Steering wheel's nice and close, as are the throttles. There's adjustment on the wheel and the seat as well, so the helm is likely to fit most skippers. Something else is worth pointing out from this helm, though you sit quite high, which is good for your view out, it does make it a bit tricky to see around and behind you, especially with the roof closed. You can't sort of pop your head up and have a look around, so you do find yourself leaning down quite a lot to check if you're doing hard turns to port or starboard. It's great to see Sessa back building and selling boats again, especially when they're building boats that offer so much. The C42 is a really unique prospect. It looks different, it stands out in a marina, it's got fantastic detailing, and on board there's loads to like as well, including 2 great cabins, 2 really nice bathrooms, and a genuinely fantastic cockpit. Now, it's not a cheap boat. This boat here to this spec is going to be around £450,000, but in the quality and that detail, you can at least see where that money's going.